Okay, I do hereby call this Maize City Council meeting to order and ask for roll.
Councilmember Kevin Reed.
Present.
Councilmember Alex McCready.
Here.
President Jennifer Harrington.
Here.
Mayor Pat Stivers.
Here.
Councilmember Jeff Long.
Here.
Councilmember Dr. David Hall.
Here.
Thank you. If everybody would please rise for a pledge of allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. Item number 3, or item number 4, I should say, is the approval of the agenda. Anything from staff to change?
No changes at this point.
Thank you. Anything from council? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I would move we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, public comments. Don't see any. No public comments tonight. Item number 6 is the consent agenda.
I would move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. You already
I
did
just
that?
did.
I'm sorry. Jeez. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7 is business.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hello,
I
sir.
come to you tonight because the city's been notified of a pass-through grant via KDOT for a Highway Safety Improvement Program intersection grant. Maize is an eligible recipient if we were to be awarded, and the grant application closes January 31st. As you're aware, the intersection of 45th and Tyler has been a recent topic of discussion both due to accidents and the Northeast Transportation Study completed by Trans Systems recommending changes to increasing traffic to help with the increasing traffic flow. The Trans Systems study includes several other recommendations. However, the intersection is designed as a kickoff project and is identified as project number 1 in that study. KDOT is already working on the design for the bridge replacement over K96 at 45th and a redecking of the Tyler Street Bridge. These 2 bridges are project number 2, and KDOT's expecting to complete those in the 27-28 timeframe. The grant application in your packets was able to be completed with the help of the police department staff and the public works staff, and their efforts, along with having a full traffic study completed, makes this grant application package very strong. HSIP pays 90% of all construction and engineering costs. The city is responsible for the remaining 10%, along with 100% of design, utility locating, and right-of-way acquisition. You'll find the breakdown of the cost estimates from Trans Systems on both the agenda report and in the grant package. The total cost of the project would be estimated at about $7,361,000, with the city's share being $1.934 million, leaving the grant to pay about $5.426 million. If awarded, the city's share would require GO bonding, and that's why we bring this before you tonight. And I'm requesting that the council approve the grant application and authorize the mayor to sign. I stand for questions.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
Mhm.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve submission of the HSIP grant application and to authorize you to sign.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second to approve submission of the HSIP grant application and authorize the mayor to sign. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Moving on to item B as in boy, recommendation regarding residential trailer, boat, and RV parking.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Back in November, I brought before you suggestions of changing the current zoning regarding RV parking and trailer parking. As noted back in November, we had deviated from the zoning ordinance via administrative memo that allowed parking in driveways and in the front of residences between April and October. At the last meeting, we had a lengthy discussion on direction on how we want to proceed. Eventually, the item was tabled to bring back in January to the full council. That's why we're bringing it back again, so we can get some direction on what to actually put into the zoning code or continue to work under the administrative regulation. In my original memo, I included a couple of other cities and what they do, as well as our original recommendation of enforce the current zoning code, but add an exception of 48 hours for loading and unloading.
Questions from staff or concerns or comments? Or from city council?
I just say, we had several votes that we failed to get a full approval from last time. And one of the directions, one of the reasons to delay it was that we didn't have a full council at that time to hopefully get any sort of vote passed forward. One of the things that as we as staff say, we've got a recommendation we're bringing to you, but ultimately this is your call as a council, how you want to, whether you want to enforce it as it's currently being done, enforced, but memorialize that into a policy, or to be consistent with, as the policy states in the current planning and zoning code, or also add potentially a grace period for anybody that, and our suggestion was 48 hours. It could be anything that you guys ultimately choose. So there's a lot of flexibility in what you can do. The impetus for this whole thing was that currently our only means to enforce it is an administrative memo that exists. That's basically allowed us for almost half of a year to ignore what the current zoning regulations state as it relates to this. We just wanted to memorialize that into an actual regulation. So whatever direction you give today, whatever you vote, will give staff good direction forward, and it'll be written into such a way that we'd push forward with what the council's indicated they want to do as it relates to this.
The direction you give us, will then take and codify that into the zoning code.
And it'll likely require you to go back to the planning commission with direction from what you guys have given us today.
As I stated to you guys personally, one of the issues I have is, the 48 hours is one thing, but if the grandparents come in to see the family and they park the RV in front of the house and they want to spend a week, with 48 hours, they're not going to be able to do that unless we offer some sort of an exemption or something like that. So that's a comment that I have, and I've had that comment, and I don't know what the way around that is. Or
In Goddard, in my
I
memo,
saw it's 15 days.
Goddard has an extension. You can apply for a permit.
Yeah.
You can actually reside in the RV while it's in your driveway. And I think it's 13 days.
It says 15 right here.
Okay, then that would be correct.
I guess God forbid there's a house fire and they got to put an RV in their driveway while they're rebuilding the house. I mean, would we make exceptions for things like that, I assume?
We certainly could, absolutely.
I would like to see a little bending on that. I know what this is going after, but, we don't want to add undue burden to the citizens of Maize, but at the same time, we also don't want RVs and trailers all over the place all the time. And I understand it's kind of a fine line right there. So I don't know what you guys think, but that's my only really big concern is to be a little bending, or if they have to come in and get a permit, I would hope that it would just be a piece of paper just so that law enforcement would know that they've got a little time. I don't think there should be any sort of a fee with that, in my opinion, if that's what we decide to do. Yeah.
I agree with you. I kind of like that Goddard ordinance. To me, it gives a little more flexibility. What I don't like to see is if somebody has an RV and they're avid campers and they go out for the weekend, they have to go pick their, RV up from storage on Thursday and load it up, come back on Sunday and have to take it back to storage, only to do it again the next week. So to me, that Goddard reg kind of takes that away, but still makes it to where you can't permanently park your RV in your driveway. So that's kind of the approach that I favor, which kind of also gives you the avenue that you were talking about, Mayor. So that's my opinion.
So remind everybody what the police want, what they would like to do.
Actually, it really doesn't affect us either way,
Ah.
other than we would, even if we take the memo and codify that into zoning, that would be fine with us too. Having it in the zoning code would make it better to enforce rather than an administrative memo. And so our original goal was to kind of clean that up, codify it in the zoning code. And based on our current zoning ordinance, I wanted to give some flexibility, and that's why we originally recommended the 48 hours.
Yeah, because what we've done is during the summer months, we've kind of been lax and we haven't enforced things. And then during the winter months, we enforce it. And it's I guess, an unwritten rule, so to speak. Is that what we've kind of
Basically from April to September, is that correct?
End of September.
We don't enforce it.
Right.
As the memo states.
But at the same time, there's vehicles or trailers or stuff that's out there right now, or even during, we're not necessarily enforcing it as we should right now, technically. Is that right?
And yes, and the challenge that we have, and especially during that time frame that memo indicates, is we found people that are using work trailers,
Yeah.
not necessarily the RVs and the boats that we were originally talking about, using their work trailers and parking them in their driveways, and then in turn parking their personal vehicles out on the street. The STOs cover anything that occurs out on the street as far as that parking issue goes. So this would just remedy the zoning piece of in the driveways, not on the side or back of the house, on improved surfaces and on grass surfaces.
I think some of the enforcement issues that we currently are having are probably related to the fact that we haven't had a tremendous amount of consistency around what's even what you're able to do or what you're not able to do. So I personally agree with the original intent of the code as it was written. And I'd certainly be willing to make an exception in terms of, 48 hours or 72 hours. I think that's reasonable. But with the code as it's written, most of these folks are going to have storage somewhere anyway. So my thought would be that the intent would be to have them use it.
Yeah, it's not like we don't have enough of them around here.
Well, yeah, my only thought was even if it is somebody that has to have storage to have to go to and from all, or even a boat, if you will, if they go boating every weekend, or if we hit your neighborhood where everybody's using boats, because that's what the neighborhood was designed for.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I was just thinking about my community. Let's say if we have some kind of tournament going on.
Yep.
What would that apply to that area then?
Well, what's unique about your neighborhood, you have designated parking areas and boat parking.
Yes, we
They're
do have
not
that one.
necessarily parking those at a residential lot. Because if I recall, you have two different parking lots specifically for parking those boats.
Yeah, we do have the boats. I'm just thinking about during the tournament when we have more RVs. We may have some, maybe some their friends kind of close. They kind of just park closer to their driveway or kind of around that area, not the designated parking area. How will this change apply to that situation?
Well, if you put an exception in, whether it's the the 15 days like Goddard has, or you have the 48 or 72 hours, then that should be sufficient, because most of the tournaments fall within that 72-hour time frame. So whatever direction the council would want an exception to be, we can certainly put in that and take to the planning commission.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have to give people with an RV the ability to bring it to their house, work on it, do their thing, you know, get ready for the weekend and that sort of stuff. So there's got to be, I think, some sort of allowance there in terms of time. And in my mind, 48 to 72 hours seems sufficient. If you're going up to 2 weeks, that's kind of going back to where we were just at, I think, in terms of making it really difficult to enforce it. So.
I agree with what Jeff just said.
I mean,
Exactly.
the business owner that say is a concrete company that he's got a utility trailer that he uses every day. So every day he's moving that's not going to pertain to him. At night, he's bringing it home and putting it in his driveway or leaving it out in the front. Is that going to be in violation? He's using that every day, basically going to work.
If it's parked in the street without being hooked to a vehicle, then that's going to be a violation.
But if it's hooked to his three-quarter-ton truck.
Moving every 24 hours, then it's not going to be a violation.
But that would keep
Right.
the example of, we have some trailers that are parked in a driveway with equipment or refuse on them. That would be able to handle that when they sit there for multiple weeks at a
Right.
time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But this isn't going to affect the everyday go-to-work guy that is hooked up. You know, we're not going to hurt his business. He's not going to have to take his truck, go to the storage place to go hook up so he can go to work.
Yeah, this would be more addressing the long-term parking.
Right.
When a trailer's parked there for days.
Okay.
We've had one person say they were working on remodeling their house, and the trailer was parked there for several weeks and not moved, not dumped. And that's when it becomes problematic.
And that's what we're after.
Mhm.
Correct. Yeah, I'll go along with that.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, I think I stated last time, I think whatever we want to change, we need to be consistent with the current code and also enable our place to enforce that in the simplified way. So I'll just go with, don't use the administrative memo to guide the place to do things. But if we want to do this consistently, put it in the code and enforce that.
So does staff need to rewrite this in such a way that's being described tonight, or is that
Yeah.
something? Okay.
I think that would be our approach, is if you give us some guidance tonight, we would rewrite it. However, whatever parameters you guys set, whether it's, we'll enforce it throughout the year with a 48 or 72 hour or a 2 week, if that's where you guys want to go as a city council. And what we would do is we'd put it together and we would submit it to the planning commission and say, this is the guidance that the city council has given going forward.
I'm open personally to either 48 or 72, whatever, but I would like a paragraph written with regard to if you need to stay a little bit longer for whatever, for up to 1 week or whatever we determine, that you can file with the city to get that extension. But it
Permit.
Build some flexibility in for
yeah,
situations.
well, I want people to be able to come to Maize and I see that all the time. The grandparents, they bring the motorhome in. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but during the summer especially, they're coming here to Maize and they're going to spend a week and see their grandkids, and they live in the dang motorhome. And
So, Mr. Mayor, if I hear you correctly,
yeah,
what I'm gathering from the council's comments, we're looking like a 72-hour exception, and then a paragraph for exigent circumstances with notification to the police department.
yeah, and I don't know if we want to make that a once a year or once every 6 month kind of thing, because I don't want somebody to be coming to you every week to get an extension. There's got to be an end to that, right?
Mhm.
I don't know how we want to word that.
You can, I mean,
You
you can
understand
probably
where
build
I'm
some
coming from
discretion
on
into
this.
there.
Yeah, they're coming into town. That's what that's made for. It's not for somebody that's just going to come to you every week and say, I need another week, I need another week, I need another week.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody goes and parks a dang-gum camper in front, next door for 2 weeks and by my house, I mean, I'm not gonna be a very happy camper, literally. But I don't think that's quite right. I mean, I pay the taxes and stuff like that for my place. Why do I have to look at a camper all the time there? So it has to be fairly tight, as far as I'm concerned. 72, I'd go with 72.
I like 72.
72 sounds like the magic number. Is that cool?
Yes, sir.
Do you think, and I hate to throw a monkey wrench in things, but do you think there'll be people out there with a stopwatch and
I don't,
we're making problems worse?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Basically, everything that we've noticed is based on complaint driven, or, we've driven by, or Jeff Creep has driven by places and seen the same trailer there week after week after week, or the same RV there week after week after week.
Yeah.
And so I think we can put in a paragraph about accident circumstances, notification to City Hall, and the extension would have to be approved by the chief of police.
We want to make a specific timeline on the extension, like you could reach out and get a 10 or 15-day extension or whatever.
And obviously, we would want to be flexible in the scenario, like the mayor said, if somebody's house burns
Yeah.
down and they're living on their own property.
That'd be a case by case thing.
We would want
Right.
to work with them and help them through their situation.
Well, that's the difference between us and a big city. We have that flexibility to have a little common sense.
Yes, sir.
So we're
Well,
not,
I think us moving this back from an administrative memo to our zoning ordinance, it should show any flags that come up. I mean, we should, after a year's time, know if we're getting calls, if there's, circumstances where people are needing more time or some kind of leeway there. And I think we have a chance to look at the zoning ordinances every year or so. So I think that it allows us the chance to see what really is, if it is an issue, and if it continues to be an issue. Once, everybody's told that we're going back to what the ordinances say.
Tom, from a legal standpoint, is there anything that we've said tonight that might put a cog in the wheel? Are we okay with what we're doing? Okay, good.
I think it's, just getting it written.
Well, yeah,
the way that
I guess,
everybody's
I don't-
requirements or expectations.
yeah, I don't know that I would make a motion at this point, but I would direct staff to write an ordinance to that effect with what you've heard tonight from the city council with regard to the 72 hours and an amendment, or an option to extend that based on a situation, and do your verbiage on that and have Tom review it. And then,
So is the extension specifically for RVs or for all sorts of vehicles?
for me, it's just for RVs, because that's my only scenario that I would give an extension in, or if there's, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but
Well, I mean, there might be a case where they are doing construction on the house but a permit would maybe X-nay that.
well, yeah, if you're building a new house and there's a construction trailer out front and they're framing the house, I mean, how long is that going to take? And is that trailer going to stay out there? But there's normally not even a road there while they're putting in a new house. But
Yeah,
I mean, are we going to,
somebody's doing a remodel or
yeah,
gutting a house or whatever, and they need to
I could see that
have
happen.
a trash bin out there.
So maybe it's more than just an RV.
Yeah, I think, people that have a boat and they go out for a long weekend, they want to take their boat home and clean it up,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So I
Yeah.
think within reason, should be allowed.
You good with that, Nick?
Absolutely. I think you guys have given some good, clear direction. We'll work up the language. We may float it to you before we bring it to the,
Right. Yeah, send
before
it.
we bring it to Planning Commission
Yeah,
with a recommendation. And I'll give you guys an opportunity to look at it and provide some input. And then eventually it will come back to you. Once it goes to the Planning Commission, they will, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but they'll approve the change to the zoning regulations, and then you'll codify that.
Recommendation, and you would actually adopt if you agreed with what they did, you would adopt the zoning ordinance that they recommended.
Okay.
So you're the ultimate decider on zoning law.
10-4.
And for any of our residents that are living in HOA neighborhoods, I mean, they're still going to be bound by their HOA covenants in those situations.
Yes, they'd take precedent
Right.
over our ordinance.
Right. Which may be more strict than what we're doing, more than likely.
For sure.
If they're less strict, our ordinance would apply, but if they're
That's
more
true.
strict,
That's true.
then the HOA covenants would apply.
Okay, thank you. Well, so that's kind of the direction from the council. I don't know that we need to vote on this, and I don't know if we need to make a motion to table this one more time, or if we're just going to skip over it, whatever you guys want to do.
I don't think we need to table it. We just.
I think you've given us good direction. We'll
Okay.
we'll work on a draft of it.
Great.
Unless I see major pushback from the council, I might send it out individually for you guys to look at.
Right.
Unless we see major pushback, we'll just move forward with it.
All right, thank you. It's good stuff. Thanks, council. Well, Chief, you might as well stay up there because we're to reports and you're it.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, Council. In regards to my report, I have nothing to add. The annual report will be given to you at the third Monday meeting in February. We're working on that right now. As you know, last year at the same time, I turned in the annual report in February. We wanted to make sure everything looked right. So you have a general report for this month, and then you'll have the annual report next month.
You want to tell them about your speaking? I mean, you're the keynote speaker.
I have been asked, we have a
Found this out today.
officer that is graduating February 7th from the KLETC. The executive director has reached out to me to be the keynote speaker during the graduation, and I've accepted. So I'll get to go up and speak to the graduating class.
I'm going, so if you guys want to go and heckle him, he'll send you an invite.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Chief, just a quick question. So not necessarily report related, but so in the packet on the information regarding the trailer, boat, and RV storage, there's a matrix there, and it talked about all the cities around the city of Maize and how code enforcement fits within each of those municipalities, whether it's under the police department or under the city or under public works. Just curious, was there any thoughts that you had around the way that we do that?
Not necessarily. I wanted to kind of paint a picture so everybody had an understanding of where code enforcement fits in other cities. I found it unique when I came up here to find it, code enforcement was under the police department. And so I wanted to do that research to see where it fit. I know that Jeff works extensively with Mitch as far as the zoning piece of it. And so, as you know, I'm still learning the code enforcement piece of it. So I just kind of wanted to paint a picture for myself and for council where that fits in other organizations. I know with the city of Wichita and Sedgwick County, they have a combined unit, MABCD, and they're independent of everybody else.
And just from that perspective, I've seen it be an independent department. I've seen it be under public works. I've seen it be under law enforcement. And there's no one wrong or right way to handle it. And they all have their pros and they all have their cons. So, the most important thing is that we're, as a city unit, we're all working together to make sure we handle the code enforcement the best way we can. And so where it ultimately sits, it could be something we could look at changing at some point. But for the time being, I think it's not a bad place to have it stay in law enforcement and to assess as we kind of continue to go forward.
And there's some advantages as well, having it in law enforcement. If he runs across something that falls, for instance, a car parked on the street, that doesn't necessarily fall in code enforcement, kind of like a car that you'd sent me, doesn't fall in code enforcement, it would fall under us, under the STOs. If If code enforcement has an issue, much like in my experience in Wichita, if they have an issue in dealing with a resident, they call the police anyway. So I just wanted to kind of educate and show the different varieties of where code enforcement fits.
Appreciate that.
Good.
Thank you
Oh,
all.
one last thing.
Yes.
I was looking at your numbers here. I noticed year-to-date comparison in 2023, you had 0 total arrests. In 2024, you got 200. Is that accurate? And then total guns submitted in 2023 were 0, or at least it's blank. And in 2024, there was 11.
We didn't have, if you recall, we transitioned to the new RMS
Okay.
in 2023, so we didn't have
All right.
complete numbers in
That's
the
what I
number of
was-
categories.
Then
And we also learned that this year, the way we've been handling some reports based on how the new RMS works,
Yeah.
instead of making reports, we have the ability to make notes into CAD that are there forever, so we can actually pull and research that information. And so we're adjusting to the new RMS.
Okay. I figured it was something like that. So good. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Public Works. Nick?
Evening, Mayor and Council. I don't have anything to add to my report tonight. However, I wanted to just real quick direct your attention to the third page of my report. This is something that we generated through Cartograph. This is a task detail summary report that we generated based on the work that we did with the last 2 snow events that we got in early January. I don't think we've provided this kind of information to you before, but I just wanted to share this with you just as an FYI. It tracked all of our resources from labor, equipment, and materials. So those 2 events that we experienced in early January amounted to, being, as you see on the top of the third page there, about an $18,000 event for the city to treat the roads and streets in the way that we did. So that was just kind of an FYI thing for you. I think that's important for you guys to know. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have about that or anything else in the report.
I have one. Is Park and/or Albert Street on your list of streets to remove snow?
No. We don't currently do those right now. Right now, we're doing all the arterial streets and then the busier streets such as Academy and Irma that have heavier school traffic. And other than that, we don't.
School traffic, not people going to the post office.
It's not to say that we couldn't start doing that. Did you feel like there were issues over there, or?
Yeah, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that we used to do those 2 streets. At least Albert.
I'm certainly won't say that we haven't done them in the past. I think it's sort of a case by case basis depending on the event when we, and at least in the past decided when we may or may not do something, but
Okay.
At least moving forward, I want to be fairly consistent for what we do.
And
Not
I
to
guess
say
Park wouldn't be an arterial street because it doesn't run all the way through. It stops at
Correct.
Academy.
But Nick and I kind of discussed today the idea that he was going to maybe put something on our internet to show what streets he had, which ones he was consistently going to plow.
we talked a little bit about.
Yeah, we talked about.
We
putting
don't
that
have
on.
a snow and ice removal policy.
Right.
One of the things that Nick and I have been discussing is how let's memorialize what we do. So if individuals have questions, we'll be able to direct them directly to what our policy is and how we handle those things.
You could be right, because, we had a complaint from another neighborhood that we'd always apparently done their streets in the past, and we didn't do it this time. And so you may get a phone call from that. I don't know. But
On the website with that policy, we could put a map on there that, highlights the streets that we do and that sort of thing.
Do we have creative names for our plows like the city of Wichita does?
Right now, we do not.
All right, so that is your new challenge, is to come up with that.
Noted.
is that for us to vote on, or should we open that up for input?
Real quick question on your, on that task detail. I really appreciate you including
sir.
that. So there's a line item under other, for 8,000. Is that like the sand and the?
That's the salt sand.
Sand and salt?
Mhm.
Okay.
We bought about, we probably used about 100 tons worth of salt sand over those two events.
Gotcha.
And I saw a report that since 1993, this is the longest that we've had this amount of snow on the ground for this long. So
The wettest January since the 70s.
So the.
What?
Yeah,
So
the
the,
wettest.
so
January.
the streets that we do,
Mhm.
we do the sidewalks also.
No.
no. So currently we do the Maize Road bike path. And then we did 45th Street sidewalk east of Maize Road to Derringer. And then just later this last week, we did the Academy Street sidewalk. The Academy Street sidewalk is probably something we'll continue to do. And we did get a lot of requests about that. I was a little bit hesitant to do that to begin with because of those nice pavers on there, and
Correct.
some inexperienced guy could rip that up pretty easily. So
Yeah, so that skid steer has a narrow bucket.
we actually have a really nice snow plow for us skid steer that we've used for.
That's the width of the sidewalk.
It's close, yeah.
Yeah. The only reason I'm asking that is because on Academy, there's a lot of kids from the apartments over there, and they was walking through, trudging up and down through the snow. And I'm just curious if the streets we plow, if those were the ones we also did the sidewalks for the kids.
Not always, yes, but those higher trafficked areas for students and that kind of thing, yeah.
Same thing with Irma. There were a lot of kids. Basically, they were just walking out on the street because the sidewalks weren't clean.
Right. We plowed Irma, but we didn't do the sidewalks down Irma.
I'm just curious. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing for you
Yes, sir.
too. In the past, I'd asked about your GIS mapping system.
Yes, sir.
That we get a demo of.
Absolutely. Yep, I promised you that, and I will follow through with it.
And the other thing I'd like to see a demo on is the maintenance management software.
Yes,
Now that you've got it implemented and
I've also gotten a request from a council member to go, it's been a while since we did it, but to schedule a time when and maybe this would be the ideal time to do all of those. When the weather warms up a little bit, to do a plant tour and go back there. Potentially we could wrap all that into one if you were interested, or we could do it as a workshop, kind of depending on how. We could just do the GIS as a workshop sometime, or we do it all as one trip out to Public Works, and it'd be a Public Works workshop where you guys could go out and see all the things happening out there.
I think all in one trip would probably work.
So maybe we schedule something in the spring when you guys could, we could get everybody all out there again.
Be great.
So can a resident clean their own street in front of their house?
I actually did have somebody call and ask me that. What I told him was I wouldn't tell him no, that he couldn't, but I would have a little bit of hesitation. It wouldn't be a great thing for him to, tear up his equipment to clean the street off. What I encouraged him to maybe do was, if he wanted to help out his neighbors, because that was the intent of what he was trying to do. I said, you can maybe help him get out of their driveway or something like that, but I'd hate for you to tear up your four-wheeler or whatever you're doing it with by plowing the street.
So if I buy a skid steer, can I do my street?
I won't tell you no.
I mean, like the other day, which I don't expect you guys to plow it or anything else like that. So I dug out the mail lady. Today I dug out, because the ruts are going north and south, and then they go to try to turn around, and then they get dropped down the rut.
On the end of your street?
Not on the end, right in the middle. And so it was the Mike Burks had his water heater went out, and the guys come and get it, and they try to turn around in the driveway, and they back up, and then they drop down in those ruts. It's a little unusual, but my question is, can a resident clean that street on their own without getting in trouble?
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you. Planning and zoning.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My report's pretty conclusive. I stand on it, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Everything's going okay, I assume?
Yes, sir.
No issues?
No, sir.
No complaints?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
I don't have anything. Anybody have anything?
We have all the members on the planning commission, right?
Yes, that is correct. We're fully staffed on the planning commission.
All right. God, you got off easy tonight. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything from legal? Even easier.
Not tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Operations.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm not, Kelly is gone today, so I will just to reiterate, I don't think there's any major changes from any of the financial report data that we had to present, other than you were kind of shown where we sit currently year end. What that, Kelly wanted me to remind you that that doesn't include encumbrances that we've got. So we'll know that. You probably will likely know that by the first meeting in February, but we'll be able to show you where we sit finally with all encumbrances, and you'll know exactly where we sit. But I think we've tried to use a lot of fiscal control as we've gone through the year, and you'll see that as you look at those financials, where we sit from a revenue and expense standpoint. So I won't say anything more to that. I will also say you also have copies of your quarterly technology report, and also your quarterly municipal court report. I don't know if you have any questions on any of that came through. We probably will have to get back with you if you have any major questions on those, but if you don't have any, I'd get kind of to my January operations report for the city, and I'll just kind of hit some highlights on that. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for committing to that Saturday, the 14th and of December, and say really appreciate taking the whole day for our council retreat, or at least half the day. And I think we had some really good discussions that came from that, and you're going to continue to hear some of those as we go forward. We probably will likely bring before you guys a workshop to discuss any related items as it relates to the sales tax piece that will be coming up at some point. But what I did see, and I'll kind of point out, remember we had the vote and kind of set some of the priorities based upon what we heard from the council. We've already started work on a number of those items, including a comprehensive development plan was identified as a major priority of something we needed to address. We started to talk with potential comprehensive development firms that might be able to help us get started. As you're aware, the last one we did was 2019. And, lots changed, both in the growth of Maize and also just the direction from an administrative level where we've gone from here. So doing a comprehensive development report is something that's going to be important. I think what you'll find as we've started to look through it, there's different levels of a comprehensive development report that we've had. We sat down and had a conversation a little bit today with Dr. David and how we might do more financial analysis to determine as we look at where growth happens based upon the kinds of uses and the financial impact that each of those uses have. And as you compare it to the revenues that would be generated, potentially, definitely from a property tax standpoint, but potentially even from a sales tax standpoint, and how we look at where those areas go in the future, and how, as you compare what it would cost to extend utilities and other services to those areas. That's definitely a way you can look at comprehensive development planning. So we're going to continue to work towards that. And you'll probably hear more from us in the future on that. That's one area we've tried to work on. Continue to work on water infrastructure, where we've had conversations on with a number of different engineering firms about what the best way forward to make sure we can secure water rights for the future and look at well sites. And so we'll continue to work on that piece. That's something we've worked quite a bit towards, and expanding the retail commercial growth in Maize city limits. As you know, we've been very focused on that here in the last several months. Developing an economic development plan, working with retail attractions, and having quite a bit of discussions with local landowners and development companies about potential projects, and we'll continue to work towards that. Those are kind of just a couple examples of some of the things we've kind of even tried to focus on since that retreat, and we'll continue to work on. As you're aware, we did kind of look at council and do a focus group exercise with PPMC at the retreat. We do plan to start having those with various local groups within the community that are going to be started here towards the end of January into February. So you'll see your planning commission as an example, your park and tree board. We've given a number of names from within the community for them to do just a general community focus group. And so you're going to notice that these things will get started here pretty quickly. We have a element from the school district through the PTO organization. I don't remember what it's specifically called, but we're gonna try to tap them as resources to also give us guidance as well as we continue to work through the strategic plan process. And so you'll hear more about that coming up. Live streaming, exciting. This is now our second meeting that we've live streamed, and we'll continue to fine tune that. There's still a number of pieces of hardware we're working on getting that'll continue to make that an easier process going forward. I know I've sent out notice to you in the last week. We've had significant conversations about the Goddard Chamber of Commerce and the potential for doing a joint chamber for Western Sedgwick County. Tristan and I met with the Goddard board in a retreat last week. Conversations went very well. We presented to them an MOU of what our expectations would be if we were to do that. And I think those conversations went great. What I would anticipate, based upon any comments I hear back from you, to bring representatives from the Goddard Chamber here, the first meeting in February, to be able to, for you to ask any questions or provide any comments about how you see that arrangement working. But we see that moving fairly quickly. If there's, based upon my conversations and what I was hearing, I felt that it's potentially a really good match between us. One of the things we'd like to do early on is have a meet and invite all of our Maize businesses to come to a meeting and hear a little bit about the prospect of this happening and try to get some guidance from them as well, whether there's a desire to do that. So that'll be something we want to do early on in that process. But they've invited us to sit in on some of their process of rebranding and how you would establish it as a more than just a one community chamber. So I'm kind of excited to hear some of the things they've discussed as it relates to that. I do want to do a real quick, just as we're here in January, give you a quick rundown of some of the things that have happened. And I want to thank Tristan and Joe for kind of bringing this to the forefront. And what we'll probably do is push some of this information out to the community via social media. But in 2024, just to give you a rundown, Maize platted 453 new residential lots that resulted in 859 new residences that will come from those plats. Those won't be instantaneous. They'll come over time as developers move forward, but that's quite significant development. We had two all new residential developments that are poised for street installation coming up here. that you'll see happen fairly quickly. We had 110 new single-family home permits issued, 119 multifamily home permits issued. Of those 119, I think all duplexes. 6 new commercial building permits issued, and at least 2 new businesses opened, Sherwin-Williams and Redbud Pediatric, in 2024. And we're estimating that our residential population is around 7,500 at this point. It could be more or less, but as a general rule, that's where we think we stand. I think it was a very exciting year to see how much development we have done. As we talk about where we grow in the future, that comprehensive plan will really come into play. And so we'll continue based upon whatever direction you give us to work where we need to be. But that's kind of a summary of my data that I presented in on my reports. If there's any questions, I'd stay for those.
Our work that we're doing with retail attractions, is there 2, 3 metrics or something that they could share with us monthly just to show us kind of what kind of progress they're making?
My apologies. I've actually got the December and November data sitting on my desk. I printed it off and failed to bring it in here, but I can pretty much recall it. They've worked with about 37 different retail businesses over the last 2 months. About 35 restaurants I've had contact with. One of those restaurant chains, fast food, has had 3 additional inquiries back to retail attractions, not only about pad sites, but also some work that he is doing with a landowner and a developer for a larger project, and the timing of that, potentially moving into that development. And I think we'll be seeing something on the horizon as a council soon. That will be fairly exciting, but no news to break yet. And then he's also had inquiries back from, I want to call it a farm implement company that's done a couple of inquiries about properties in Maize. And he's been working with both a landowner over here across from Menards and a developer, but he's also been working with the new landowner for 119 acres over off of K96 and 53rd to try to help get them up and running. They're kind of breaking into the commercial arena, and he's been helping guide them with bringing in some other resources. So he's been very active with us. We have weekly contact, if not sometimes daily. So
Okay, appreciate it.
I apologize that I didn't actually bring the reporting that I printed, but that's pretty much the summary.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks. Moving on to council member reports. Kevin, anything?
Just a couple things. And kind of reiterates on what you already touched on, but as time goes by, I'm getting more nervous about water rights. So I wanted to kind of bring that up, but you kind of beat me to it. So I'm glad you're actively pursuing it, because it makes me worried. And the other thing is that came out of the workshop is that we needed to take a look at our baseline zoning that we have in our master plan, and getting that updated as soon as possible to me is a big priority, especially with all the interest in commercial development and whatnot, that because we're kind of sitting there exposed in a lot of areas, because back when that was put together, it was a different place here in Maize.
So interesting that you bring that up. So the land use plan, we've had conversations with Multi-Studio, who was Gould Evans, and we've also had contact with Verdunity, 2 of the companies we've talked to. Both of them had reiterated that the land use plan is our policy document, not only for the planning commission, but for the city council. And we understand that that land use plan needs to be updated because we haven't necessarily followed it. Doesn't mean that we always have to follow it, but we definitely need to get that updated so that we know that as a council and as a planning commission, that land use plan is really what we need to stick to develop our community and the vision that we see it.
Thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Alex?
Yeah, I just had about the burger place. Anything going on with that?
I had outreach from the renter for that, and it'd given me a date, but I would jump the gun earlier when he indicated he would be open in August. But I did receive a call within the last several weeks here that that's moving along well, and you can expect something here within the next month and a half. So I think you'll see that open fairly quickly. If you look at the outside, they've repainted it. I think there's still some efforts that are going to go on with that as well, but I think they're getting closer, and I think that will come to fruition hopefully here in the next several months.
And the only other thing is, I just want to make sure everybody's careful with all this weather, police and you guys plowing. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Jennifer?
I just have a thank you to Public Works for clearing the roads and taking care of the streets for us for now.
Here. Jeff?
Nope, nothing from me, Mayor.
Doctor?
Just regarding the comprehensive plan, I do think that, we kind of discussed in the morning, is we should really combining the fiscal with the land use policy thing, because kind of according to the work I've been doing and also what I have observed, I do see the trend now is really you need to think about that. It's not, you cannot just live on the assumption that you keep growing without thinking about what is the financial implication, not for now, but let's say 20 years or 30 years. So I think that's important. Second, I also want to thank Public Works for cleaning the road. There's one thing, because I recall we do talk about kind of collaborate with other local government, local entities. I'm just particularly thinking about the school district. I kind of noticed that we do some cleaning, but how about, I don't know which part we'll do, which part the school district will do, but is that possible that we can follow, especially for the schools, their drop off and their kind of, the pickup route? If we can put that one as a little higher priority, because that's tend to be, during those days in the morning and afternoon, you have a lot of cars lining up there. So that might be a good way, to start the conversation with the school district. Because when I talk about this, I really don't know the division of that kind of work. So yeah, just want to bring that up to the attention.
So that really drives why we do Irma and Academy Street. We'll likely do the Academy Street sidewalk moving forward. And then one other street that we might add to our snow route plan is Jones Street. It's not one that we typically do. There are a handful of driveways on it, but I do think that street gets just about as much school traffic as Academy or Irma. In that conversation, haven't done it yet, but I'd like to reach out to school admin and get their bus route, get their drop off route, that kind of thing, and see what we're covering, if there's any gaps that we may have.
And the only thing I know just from my experience is really kind of, I think Kidai, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also Albert. I think that's for the Maize Central, all those pick up and drop off lines. Yeah, those tend to be very bad condition. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I definitely think Albert should be on that list with the post office being down there. Did a lot of,
Albert is the
Yeah.
post office.
and the one reason why I thought Park is a good candidate, because that's the one north and south, well, one of three north and south streets going through town, right?
Sure.
Even though it didn't go all the way through.
Sure. And that's kind of why I wanted to bring that report to your attention. Currently, like the numbers that report indicates is where we've drawn the line now. That's what it costs to treat what we treat now.
Sure,
So
yeah,
in
it's
that
all relevant.
conversation, that certainly doesn't mean the line can't move for what we do and do or don't do, but just wanted to make you all aware of
Yeah,
And just, so it was something that I wasn't aware of till we've had several snow events here, is that I think the school district also assists us with some of the sidewalk care
They do.
as well. So something that you wouldn't typically know unless you were told that. And I don't know every sidewalk that they do, but there is a standing agreement to assist us with those when we do have some of these events.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mayor's report, a couple things. Number one, I talked to Sarah and Hannah today with regard to our new judge, and they're both very positive. It's early, but I believe, I think we've made the right choice. Time will tell, I'm sure, but I look forward to, I know, Nick, you spent a little time in the courtroom, and she's, if you guys get a chance on a Wednesday at 4:00, you might want to stop by just to observe. I plan on doing that at some point. I understand she's going to be gone February the 12th or something like that.
I think February the 12th, this is
Yeah.
actually, this week will be her second week, and
Yeah,
give her a couple weeks to settle in
yeah,
and
yeah. Give her a little
and
time.
get good feel of everything. But I think it felt like a
Yeah.
well organized. It felt like a courtroom that you came in and you had a judge just discussing potential litigation with the people that were coming in,
It
and
was
so
being
it felt
run
really
that way.
positive.
Yeah, it was being run at least the way it's supposed to be run. So I believe is what I'm hearing. And as long as Sarah and Hannah are happy, then I'm happy. So, secondly, just a point. Today was kind of a historic day for the nation, regardless of what side you're on. I know we're nonpartisan, and either way, we got a republic, and today we saw a transfer of power, and I felt kind of proud about today, regardless of what side you're on. And then, I think of us here on the council, and we're just little old Maize, Kansas, but we're part of that. And that's what makes America tick. So today was kind of fun to watch. I don't know if you guys watched some of that today, all the stuff going on, but I thought about what we do on our little level. And it makes me kind of proud to be an American when we see that, because that doesn't happen in many other countries. So I just want to point that out, that it's kind of cool to be on this council. It's great to be the mayor, and for us to be able to do these things in America like we can do, and be a small part of what happened today was pretty cool. So in fact, Kelly is there, and I don't know what she's doing there, but didn't see her on TV today. But anyway, I just thought that was great. So with that, that's all I have this week. So, and I believe that pretty much does it. We're not doing executive. So I think that's it. At this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
You